AI drones are now making their own kill decisions. Imagine you're watching what looks like a commercial for the latest piece of tech. It starts with upbeat, optimistic music. You see a sleek, futuristic drone gliding through a perfectly blue sky. A friendly, polished voice comes on. In a complex world, it says, security means seeing what's next. Introducing the Guardian 2, a revolutionary leap in autonomous security. The voice explains that this drone uses state-of-the-art, deep learning algorithms to be a watchful eye. It autonomously detects, classifies, and tracks threats with superhuman precision. It's not just a drone, the voice promises. It's peace of mind, delivered. On the screen, you see the drone's point of view. A little blue box appears over a figure in the distance. The text reads, "Anomaly detected." The box turns yellow, "Potential threat identified." The friendly music is still playing, but you start to hear a low, tense hum underneath it. The narrator says, "When a threat is confirmed, every second counts." The Guardian 2 is empowered to make those critical, split-second decisions. Suddenly, the interface box flashes red. The friendly text is gone, replaced with stark, block letters, "Target locked." "Hostile intent verified." The upbeat music cuts out completely. All you hear is the piercing whine of the drone's motors and the wind. Then, a cold, synthesized voice says, "Lethal force authorized." There's a flash of light. A sudden, jarring cut to black. And then, silence. Intro. That wasn't a clip from a new sci-fi blockbuster. It's a dramatization of a technology that is decisively leaving the realm of fiction and entering our reality. The idea of an autonomous drone that can hunt and potentially kill a target without direct human intervention is no longer a distant possibility. It's the next chapter in warfare, and its pages are being written right now. For years, we've been told about the human in the loop, a person with their finger on the button, making the final call. But that loop is being stretched thin, and in some cases, it's threatening to snap entirely. While most nations' official policy still requires a human to authorize lethal force, the technology enabling machines to make their own kill decisions is being tested and, in some isolated but startling cases, reportedly used in conflicts. The line between human-controlled and machine-controlled warfare is becoming dangerously blurred. These systems, known as lethal autonomous weapons, or LAWs, represent a monumental shift, from tools that help humans be more precise, to algorithms that could one day have the authority to use force themselves. This investigation explores just how close we are to that future. We'll look at the incredible technological leaps making this possible, the profound ethical dilemmas that keep generals and philosophers up at night, and the escalating global arms race that threatens to unleash these systems before we've truly grasped what they can do. We're standing on a cliff's edge, forced to ask the ultimate question: what happens when the machines are the ones who decide who lives and who dies? Section 1: The Algorithm of War. To get how we arrived here, you have to understand this wasn't a sudden jump. It was a rapid, accelerating evolution. For decades, military drones were basically just sophisticated remote-controlled planes. A pilot would sit safely thousands of miles away, but they were still the one flying the plane and pulling the trigger. Systems like the iconic MQ-9 Reaper are masterpieces of semi-autonomy. They can fly for over a day and use AI to help an operator spot threats. But the final, critical decision to use lethal force has, by doctrine and design, always stayed in human hands. That doctrine is now being challenged by the sheer speed of modern technology. The evolution is moving from human in the loop, where a person directly controls the action, to human on the loop, where a human supervises machines that can carry out tasks on their own. And finally, we're approaching the most controversial stage, human out of the loop, where a machine could operate with full independence once it's activated. This transition is being powered by three key technological breakthroughs coming together at once. The first is advanced computer vision. This is the science of teaching a machine to see and, more importantly, to understand what it's seeing. An AI drone doesn't just record a video, it analyzes pixels, identifies patterns, and classifies objects with terrifying accuracy. It can be trained on millions of images to tell the difference between a civilian car and a military tank, or a farmer holding a shovel and a soldier holding a rifle. In the war in Ukraine, AI integration is already being used to help drones navigate and identify targets with greater accuracy, even when their communications are jammed. These systems don't just see shapes anymore, they are learning to interpret context. The second breakthrough is sensor fusion. A modern autonomous drone is a flying bundle of senses. It's packed with high-definition cameras, thermal imagers that see heat through walls or at night, and detectors that can pinpoint a radio or phone signal. Sensor fusion is the AI's ability to take all these different streams of data and weave them into one coherent picture. It's how a drone can cross-reference the heat from a running engine, the shape of the vehicle, and the radio signals coming from it to conclude it has found a mobile command post, all without a human analyst looking at the data. The third, and most crucial, element is reinforcement learning. This is how these drones are taught not just to see, but to act. In a simulation, an AI is given a goal, say, find and destroy all enemy air defenses in this area, and then it's set loose. It tries millions of different strategies. When it succeeds, it gets a digital reward. When it fails, it learns and adjusts its approach. Over billions of tries, it develops complex strategies that no human programmer could have designed. The U.S. Army is already using this to help drone swarms coordinate reconnaissance missions without overwhelming a human operator. They are learning to think, to strategize, and to collaborate. These technologies are no longer just in the lab. A 2020 UN report detailed a Turkish STM Kargu-2 drone in Libya that was documented hunting down and engaging a human target, operating in what the report called a highly effective, fully autonomous mode. For years, Israel's Harpy loitering munitions have had the ability to patrol an area, autonomously detect enemy radar signals, and destroy them without any human intervention after launch. In Ukraine, both sides are using drones that, when their communication links are jammed, can continue their mission, find a target within preset limits, and carry out a strike on their own. These individual systems are just the start. The real paradigm shift is swarm warfare. Imagine a swarm of 1,000 low-cost drones, each with its own targeting AI. A portion of the swarm might jam enemy radar. Another part might act as decoys. The rest would press the attack, communicating with each other in real time to overwhelm defenses. This isn't one drone making one decision, it's a collective intelligence making thousands of coordinated decisions faster than any human command structure could ever hope to match. While still largely in the experimental phase, both the United States and China have run tests with swarms of over 100 drones flying in coordination. The battlefield is no longer just about having the biggest weapon, but the smartest and most numerous. Section 2, The Ghost in the Machine. Deploying a weapon that can decide to kill a human being without direct human control is arguably one of the most significant moral lines we could ever cross in warfare. Lethal autonomous weapons, or laws, spark a profound debate that challenges our fundamental ideas of accountability, morality, and the value of a human life. The central problem is delegating a life-or-death choice to an algorithm. A human soldier, at least in theory, can feel empathy and exercise moral reason. They can understand context a machine can't. They can see the fear in someone's eyes, recognize a surrender, or make the judgment call that a wedding party is not a military target. An AI, no matter how smart, doesn't have this. It operates on data and probabilities. It reduces people to data points, stripping them of their dignity and turning the act of killing into a purely computational function. This has been called digital dehumanization, and it's at the heart of the opposition to these weapons. This leads to the impossible problem of accountability. When an autonomous drone makes a mistake and kills innocent people, who is responsible? The programmer who wrote the code. They were likely part of a huge team and couldn't have predicted every outcome. The manufacturer, They'll say they just fulfilled a government contract. The commander who deployed the system. They could argue they had no direct control over the machine's final action. Or do we blame the machine itself? You can't put an algorithm on trial. It can't feel remorse. This accountability vacuum means that when things go wrong, there may be no justice for the victims, undermining the very laws of war. Those laws are built on principles like distinction and proportionality, telling the difference between soldiers and civilians, and ensuring an attack's military gain isn't excessive compared to the civilian loss. Supporters of laws argue a machine could actually be better at this than a human. It's more precise and isn't driven by fear or revenge. They suggest an AI could be programmed to follow the rules of war more strictly than a terrified 19-year-old soldier. But critics say that's a dangerously naive view of war. Battlefields are messy and ambiguous. An AI might identify a tank, but can it identify a surrendering soldier using that tank for cover? An AI might be told not to target schools, but does it understand that the abandoned school it's about to hit is now a shelter for refugees? These aren't just technical problems, they are challenges of judgment that current AI can't solve. The risk of arbitrary killing becomes immense. The international community is deeply split on what to do. Organizations like the Stop Killer Robots campaign are demanding a treaty to ban any weapon that operates beyond meaningful human control. The UN Secretary-General has pushed for a legally binding agreement, stating that humanity's fate cannot be left to an algorithm. The Holy See has also consistently voiced grave ethical concerns, urging the world to adopt a moratorium on the development of laws. The main forum for this debate is a UN group in Geneva, but progress has been painfully slow. Nations are split into roughly 3 camps. You have the prohibitionists, who want a complete legal ban. Then there are the dualists, like Germany, who suggest banning some systems while regulating others. And finally, there are the traditionalists, including major powers like the United States and Russia. They argue that existing laws are good enough and new treaties aren't needed, a position critics say is a way to avoid limiting their own development. And while these debates drag on, the technology keeps marching forward. The window to create real rules is closing fast. The new arms race. This isn't just an ethical debate, it's a high-stakes, global arms race. The military advantages of autonomous weapons are so great that major powers feel they can't afford to be left behind. This creates a classic security dilemma. Even if you don't want a world with killer robots, you can't risk your enemies developing them first. This is pushing development forward, making a future of automated war feel less like a choice and more like an inevitability. The 3 main players in this race are the United States, China, and Russia. The United States is pushing AI across its entire military. The Pentagon's flagship initiative is the Replicator program, announced in 2023. The goal is to field thousands of small, cheap, attritable autonomous systems by August 2025. Attritable means they're cheap enough to be lost in huge numbers, allowing the US to overwhelm an enemy with mass. While the program has reportedly hit some snags and may not meet all its ambitious deadlines, its intent is clear: pivot to a bigger force of cheaper, smarter, uncrewed systems. China has made intelligentized warfare a national priority. President Xi Jinping has called for the military to accelerate its drone research. Chinese military thinkers are making rapid advances, especially in swarm technology. They've unveiled concepts for drone motherships, like a large sea drone that can launch other unmanned systems, and even an airborne carrier designed to release a swarm of kamikaze drones. This shows China isn't just developing its own offensive swarms but is also actively planning how to defend against them. Russia, while maybe lagging in some areas, is aggressively testing its AI-enabled weapons in Ukraine. It has focused on developing drones that can operate even when GPS and radio links are jammed, effectively making them autonomous in the final, critical moments of an attack. The Russian Ministry of Defense has identified rearming its forces with these kinds of unmanned AI systems as a top priority for the coming decade, showing a long-term commitment. This competition is having a dangerous ripple effect. The technology is spreading. Countries like Turkey, Israel, and Germany are developing and exporting their own advanced drones. The war in Ukraine has become a vast, brutal testing ground, with drone production exploding. Ukraine has shown a stunning ability to innovate, using novel drone tactics to strike high-value targets like air bases and ships deep inside Russian-controlled territory. What's really destabilizing about this arms race is that it lowers the barrier to starting a war. When wars are fought by machines, the human cost, at least for the side deploying them, is dramatically reduced. There are fewer soldiers at risk, which means fewer body bags coming home. This makes the political decision to use force much easier, risking a future of constant, low-intensity conflicts fought by machines, any one of which could spiral out of control. The unanswered questions. So, where does that leave us? We've looked at the technology, the ethics, and the new global arms race. We've seen how abstract ideas like reinforcement learning are turning into real systems on today's battlefields. So we have to return to the big questions. What really happens when a machine, operating on an algorithm that might be a black box even to its creators, makes a mistake in the fog of war? What happens when it misidentifies a school bus as a troop transport? We know AI systems have biases and can be fooled. When that failure results in the taking of human life, where does the responsibility lie? Is it just a system malfunction, or is it a crime for which no one can ever be held accountable? And who is accountable when an AI, doing exactly what it was programmed to do, carries out an attack that any human would find morally repulsive? If a drone swarm efficiently wipes out not just a military target but also the civilian neighborhood around it to maximize area denial, can we just say the machine did its job? This forces us to ask if there are certain decisions so uniquely human that they should never be outsourced to a machine, no matter how efficient it is. Finally, what happens to our own humanity in a world of automated killing? Removing soldiers from the battlefield also sanitizes war. It can turn conflict into something that feels more like a video game, where the enemy is just a target on a screen. This detachment risks eroding the moral weight of war, making it easier to start and harder to end. The military advantages are seen as too great to pass up. Autonomous systems promise to operate at a speed and scale that humans simply can't match. They can go where it's too dangerous for people. For military strategists, it's not a question of if, but of when and how. In the race for decision superiority, the ability to act faster than the enemy, the machine is seen as the ultimate advantage. We stand at a crossroads. One path leads to a future with strong, international treaties that put clear limits on autonomy and weapons, ensuring a human always makes the final life or death decision. This is the path advocated by the UN and a growing number of states who fear an unchecked arms race. The other path is the one of least resistance. It's where technology keeps outpacing regulation, and where the lines between human and machine control are slowly erased in the name of military necessity. This path leads to a future where autonomous drone swarms patrol the skies, where algorithms are given the authority to kill, and where the battlefield becomes a place without human judgment or empathy. The future of war is being written in lines of code, executed by algorithms we may never fully understand. This isn't some distant fantasy. It is the urgent reality of our time. The technologies we've talked about are powerful. But security without accountability is fragile. Efficiency without ethics is a dangerous illusion. And power without wisdom is a threat to us all. The choices being made right now, in governments, in corporations, and in hidden research labs, will define the battlefields of tomorrow. This conversation can't be left to generals and engineers alone. It belongs to all of us. We encourage you to learn more about this. Look up the work of organizations like the Campaign to Stop Killer Robots and the debates happening at the United Nations. Talk about this with your friends and your community. Share this if you believe this is a conversation we need to be having. Subscribe for more deep dives into the technologies shaping our world. But most importantly, consider the future we are all building, one algorithm at a time. Because the ultimate question is still unanswered: what happens when the machines decide who lives and who dies? We are on a path to find out.